AITA for getting a girl at work fired for having an OnlyFans account. I, 30F, work as a financial advisor at a rather large and well-known firm, along with my co-worker T, mid-20s/F. One lunchtime T was having a discussion with us about how she had started an OnlyFans and was already getting subscribers. She said they should forget about slaving away at a desk for a company and take their future into their own hands, etc. She then told me I should try it. I brushed this off, and said it's just not something I'd like to do. She asked me why, and I shrugged and said just because. It's like asking me if I'd like to become an actress or a doctor, neither appeal to me. However, T didn't see it that way, and said, "What, do you think you're better than me?" I said no, of course not, I just wouldn't consider doing sex work as a career. T took great offense, saying that if I'm happy earning peanuts working my life away for a boss just for dignity, then that's on me, and I mustn't judge her for wanting to make a better future for herself, that she's not ashamed of what she is doing. She also said when your children ask you why they were poor their whole lives, you can tell them it's because you had too much dignity to provide for them more. I have 2 children, and I am fully able to provide for them. This pissed me off. She got up and went back to her desk. At this point, one of my other colleagues, in a much higher, managerial position, had overheard her and asked me what had happened, so I told her. After all, T's words were she wasn't ashamed of what she was doing, she seemed very open about it. My colleague said nothing and we went back to work. I thought nothing more of it, though I was irritated by T's comments about my children and financial status. I put most of my earnings into my home, family and investment. I drive a pretty standard looking vehicle and my dress sense is rather plain, I guess. About a week later I noticed T was no longer coming into work. One of the girls she hung out with a lot at lunchtime was shooting me angry looks and speaking in hushed tones to their usual group. When I sat down, the girl turned to me and said, "Are you pleased with yourself?" I asked why and she said, "We all know you told the boss about T's OnlyFans account to get her fired." I was taken aback, then remembered mentioning it to my colleague that day. I went to her office to ask what had happened. She told me that she had decided to investigate T's social media, which listed our company as her workplace on her profile. Her rig was full of risque photos to push her OnlyFans. As her rig and FB profiles were easily connected, my colleague said it was openly moonlighting in a way that did not reflect well on the company, and reported it. T was called into a meeting, which ended in her being dismissed. I now feel responsible for T losing her job. Her friends have branded me an asshole, telling everyone I'm a jealous bitch, a slut shamer, etc. My colleague told me T had it coming and I must not feel bad. Reddit, AITA? NTA. She got herself fired, plain and simple. Linking her social media accounts to the company also means she would have been found out sooner or later anyway. NTA. I am pro-sex worker, but young people especially need to understand how their social media presence represents their company, for what implications that can have, and b, she shouldn't be taking about her OnlyFans at work. It's unprofessional and not appropriate conversation. She was extra rude to you, the conversation was overheard, it's her own problem. Would be reporting the other girls for bullying too. This isn't high school, it's a professional place of employment, grow up or get out. She had decided to investigate T's social media, which listed our company as her workplace on her profile. Her rig was full of risque photos to push her OnlyFans. That's what got her fired, not you. You didn't tell HR, or actively tell management. At this point, one of my other colleagues, in a much higher, managerial position, had overheard her and asked me what had happened, so I told her. After all, T's words were she wasn't ashamed of what she was doing. Since T was not exactly quiet about her views, this isn't on you. NTA. Not only wasn't she ashamed, she shamed Op for not doing sex work. If a male co-worker came up to Op and insisted she should make an OnlyFans and then badgered her about it when she said no, it'd be a sexual harassment complaint. Then I guess if the boss overheard that part too, that would play a large factor in not wanting this employee in the building anymore. Even if they said it was about social media. T was a debacle waiting to implode. AITA for getting angry at a hairstylist who called the authorities. This is absolutely wild to me. I, 18F, am back from college and recently went to a new hair salon with my best friend, 18F. Gemma is deaf, was wearing a Gallaudet shirt, it says Gallaudet University, School for the Deaf on it, and wanted to go blonder. Because of the fact that everyone has to wear masks, she can't use her lip reading skills and instead uses her phone or uses sign language. We went to get our hair done together and I decided to help her out and show the new hairstylist what she wanted with her hair and explain in detail how she wanted her hair done. Did I sort of hover? Yes, I did. I noticed that the hairstylist was getting out the wrong things and I went over 3 times to tell her while Gemma sat there quietly, not knowing what the hell was going on. The stylist started to act really strangely and started to talk to Gemma, snap her fingers near her ears, and finally said she was taking a break and went off to the back room of the hair salon for a few minutes. At this point, Gemma and I decided that the service was shit and that it was time to go. Before we could leave, the hairstylist came back and literally kept us there. She made excuses, started talking, and stalled and prevented us from leaving. The cops arrived like 10 minutes later and Gemma and I were separated and I was taken into one area. I was asked a few questions and I answered. I showed them pictures of us as children and our Instagram and Snap stories. I called my dad, and the cops understood everything. It turns out that the hairstylist had assumed that Gemma was being human trafficked because she was catatonic in her chair, she was unresponsive, she seemed agitated by waving her hands around, and I was doing all of the talking for her. The cops left and I went out there to scream at the hairstylist. I used some choice words, called her some mean things, and, because it's a chain, I forced her to call her manager so that I could watch her get fired on the spot. I was extremely angry and I told her that she was the stupidest bee in the world for all of the drama. AITA for screaming at the stylist. We left with a lot of free stuff and gift cards, but my friends say that she was doing her job. I think that she was a nosy bitch. I might get downvoted for this, but I genuinely believe this is made up. Literally just yesterday there was a TikTok that had gone viral about how hairstylists look for signs of human trafficking in their clients. Now suddenly today you're spinning the exact same scenario as your own story. If it is true, AITA for how you handled that situation. Info: did you tell the hairstylist that she was deaf? Answer: no, she did not. She assumed the stylist should have known from the shirt. Interesting that she's rather angry about the stylist making an assumption later in the interaction. AITA, I say this as someone who hates calling the cops and entered this thread ready to leap to your defense. Wow, you're a flaming self-centered asshole. This stylist thought she was potentially protecting a victim of trafficking. We went out drinking one night and my best friend, large dude, had to help me home. On the way out the door, a posse of girls stopped him. Is she really your friend? Can you prove it? Call her phone. He ran through a couple of litmus tests. Yes, here's her name. I know her phone unlock code. Halfway through it I realized what was going on and managed my own explanation. Then they started to apologize and he stopped them. What if I had been a bad guy? You did the right thing. If someone else was dragging this idiot out the door, I might never have seen her again. Thank you. My friend took the time to explain the situations and wasn't offended by people genuinely trying to help. You're an entitled self-centered jerk who thinks people should know your moral character by looking at you. Congratulations, now the chain will have new regulations in place and if a trafficking victim does end up coming in for a cut and color, they're less likely to catch it. And this poor stylist, who was trying to do the right thing, is out of the job in the middle of a pandemic. All because you couldn't be bothered to explain you were there as your friend's aide. Edit: okay, I want to also make this point. You also suck as an advocate. The point of an advocate is to translate and echo the individual's desires. That means that what you're saying is exactly what your friend wants you to say. For example, please look at her phone. It's her best way of communicating with you. There should be no question in anyone's mind that an advocate is there as a piece of translation equipment just by watching the interaction. Info: did you tell the stylist why you were communicating for your friend? AITA for setting a P-trap for my wife. Hello everyone. I'm a 39-year-old man and am married to a 31-year-old woman. First, Sorry about the P-trap terminology. Her words, not mine. Ever since my wife and I were just dating, she tried to be very insistent that I sit down to urinate. I do not want to sit down to urinate, and so I do not. Frankly, I don't think it's any of her business how I pee anyway. For years now, and especially lately, every time she goes to the bathroom she does this crazy-eyed thing where she looks down at the floor, groans, and then pulls out paper towels and cleaning spray to wipe it up. I do not pee on the floor and never have, but she calls it Splash Mountain regularly. Recently I had something of a revelation when, as usual, we were having an argument about this topic, and she said that all men pee on the floor every time they go to the restroom. It seems like she is outright hell-bent on proving a point. Anyway, the other day, I had had enough. I went to the restroom, stood over the toilet for a minute, closed the lid, and flushed. Then I called her in. I asked her to point at where I had peed because I'm trying to change my behavior, and in a couple of seconds she pointed at a spot and said there. The spot was clean. I hadn't used the bathroom since the day before. I told her as much, and she got incredibly upset. She said I set a P-trap and that what I did was really mean to her. Then she insisted that every time I go to the bathroom, I pee on the floor again. I've had enough. I think she's just trying to get out of the fact that I caught her in her crap. But she has doubled down on her behavior and is completely convinced I'm a relentless asshole. Am I? Don't think I did anything wrong, all things considered. Get a blacklight flashlight and you'll easily be able to see any accidents. If he gets a blacklight he may discover that his dick was on shower setting instead of stream. NTA, your wife has been trying to start problems where there aren't any just to get you to pee a certain way. Unless you're lying and actually have been peeing on the floor, that's super weird and slightly controlling of her. Agreed with NTA. Even if she was trying to change his behavior, what she did in this situation is pretty weird, and as a married couple they should communicate about it. This is beyond the scope of Reddit. The only thing I would have changed is, when she was caught in her act, saying now you're in trouble. Ooh, you're in trouble now. Info: how often do you clean the bathroom?